I want to do a brief recap on the film Queen and Slim. I just want to give my take on the film. I saw the film and I actually enjoyed the film for entertainment purposes. The film was visually stunning. It was well directed. The script was it was okay. The writing was okay, but the movie was entertaining. But I would like to talk about the messages in the film. If you have not seen the film, please do not watch this video. This video will have some spoilers in it. In fact, this video might spoil the entire film. So I repeat, do not watch this video if you have not seen the movie. But then again, you may want to watch it to see what I saw. So the title of the film lets you know the overall premise of this movie. Queen and Slim are the characters. Queen symbolizes that the woman knows who she is. She knows her position. She knows her place. She's royal. She's regal. She's confident. She's strong. She's all these things that encompass being a queen. Slim, on the other hand, is not those things because Slim is taking the moniker of his nickname. Slim is a physical attribute. So him being slim is actually just him submitting to his carnal self. He's not on a higher level of existence or thinking. Slim is just a basic black man in America. And we see this because his job, he's a manual laborer. He has a lot of shoe boxes in his trunk to let you know that he's into sneakers or he's a sneakerhead. Meanwhile, Queen is the attorney. If you see Slim in the film, he's not very confident when we first see him. And Queen is the one pretty much calling all of the shots. This is the narrative that you see exist in the black community, where you see that black women are probably more accomplished than black men, and then black men are the ones that are usually villainized or criminalized in the media. The film Queen and Slim may seem like a Bonnie and Clyde type movie, but it's actually a modern adaptation of a slave movie. It's a movie about runaway slaves who happen to find love on their journey. But in actuality, they don't really find love. What they find is freedom. And it seems like love because they both taste actual freedom for the first time. Queen and Slim are actually runaway slaves. And you can see this in the movie because throughout the film, they are off the grid, basically. They are on the off-beaten path. They are coming in contact with black people who know who they are just by looking at them. Like every black person knows who they are, and most black people are willing to help them along on their journey. So, and also there's a scene where they're in the car riding on the highway and they actually see some prisoners in the field and appear to be picking cotton and a white man on a horse with a gun. And so this is just symbolic of slavery. And these two were actually runaway slaves in the film. The Queen character is not struggling with identity. She's actually struggling with regret. The Slim character is struggling with identity because he doesn't know who he is. He does not really know how to be a man. Even when they are on the run, he is so desperate to call his family. And it's something like a child would be to get the comfort from home. And she's like, you can't call your family. In fact, she actually throws his phone out of the window. This is all symbolic of how we see black men and black women. We see black women as the heads of the household, and we see black men pretty much in a childlike role, being taken care of by black women. You know, I always ask the question, does art imitate life or does art influence it? In this film, you see Slim is in a white Honda, and the license plate says, "Trust God." Now that "Trust God" is symbolic with the white Honda because it's believed that Christianity is the white man's religion and it was used to oppress black people. And so the car is white, the "Trust God" is symbolizing Christianity, and we see in the film that when the car runs out of gas, their journey actually begins. It's kind of like they abandon that old way of thinking or that Christianity way of thinking. Even Queen even says she doesn't even believe in God. And Slim is shocked that she doesn't. But that car is symbolic of abandoning that old white ideology or the white version of Christianity. And we see even in the film, when they get a ride from a sheriff and he figures out who they are, they actually take the sheriff and stuff him in the car to further emphasize that they are actually done with that way of thinking. And they take his truck and they're on the move. And that's where their journey really begins. And I want you all to pay close attention to how black women are viewed compared to black men. In this film, the police officer shoots at her, but he grazes her thigh. And we all know that police officers are taught to shoot at center mass. So why doesn't he shoot her at center mass? He doesn't shoot her at center mass because she's not a threat to him. Even though she's reaching in her jacket to get her phone, even though she's out of the car, she's not really a threat to him because Slim is on the ground and he has the gun pointed at Slim's head. And all Slim asked was if he could please hurry up. So the fact that Slim showed some semblance of knowing who he was as a human being, it was an automatic threat to the police officer. But Queen was able to tell the police officer she's going to put him on camera, tell him she's a lawyer, tell him she knows their rights, all these things, and she still wasn't considered a threat. But this is what happens in real life. So the film actually shows a breakdown of how black women are viewed versus black men. Now, in the film, they go to Queen's uncle's house. Now, Queen's uncle is a Army vet or Marine vet that's a pimp, and he abuses women. I just want to let you all know that the black men in this film, the pivotal black characters, aren't really good characters in the film. Her uncle is a pimp who abuses women, but he is there to help them. And I also want to say that in the movie, he tells Slim that you ain't SHI blank because he knows the value of Slim. And again, this is how the black man is seen as being worthless. And this is how black men see themselves as being worthless. So he tells Slim that he ain't blank because he sees Slim how he sees himself. But we see a transformation in these characters because Slim puts on the costume of the pimp. He wears the pimp's clothes. And Queen actually puts on a prostitute's outfit. So as you see, these two characters kind of transform into what we would assume they were. But in actuality, they weren't really heroes. They were just afraid of the consequence they had to face, and they were trying to flee the country. They were not heroes. They were actually just afraid. They just wanted to live. What they did was accidental. It was not on purpose. But from the outside looking in, they seemed like heroes, and everybody thought that they were heroes. I want to highlight that this is not a love story. Keep in mind, they've only known each other on the first date. That's when they met. In fact, he liked her because he saw her on Tinder, and he was attracted to her. And she didn't like him, which is why she didn't give him the time of day until she was lonely. So their encounter was literally out of desperation. His was from a carnal sense. He was sexually attracted to her. And as I said, his name is Slim. So that's what he adopted. Physical attributes. There's no higher level thinking in his character. And she was lonely, meaning she's regretful because her mother is deceased. And her mother was actually killed by her uncle. And she actually gets her uncle off of a murder charge. Think about that. So the character is struggling a lot. Like I said, Slim struggles with identity and Queen struggles with regret. So in the film, her uncle is a pimp and he abuses women, and they actually get him to let them get his car. Now, his car is very flashy. It's his prized possession. It's an old school car, rims. So it's kind of like she says they're hiding in plain sight. But in actuality, they are hiding in plain sight because this is how black people are viewed. They are viewed how these characters are. That's why I said they transform into what the stereotypical black person is. Woman showing her body, black woman being sexualized, black man taking advantage of black woman, immature, all he cares about is being flashy, loud car, music, rims, all these things that really are stereotypes of black people. But in the film, this is what they transform into to blend in with who? Black people. There's a scene in the car where they're hanging out the window and they're driving. And this is a pivotal scene because this lets the viewer know this is them tasting freedom. They're actually tasting freedom. They're on the run, but they're actually free. Like I said, they were runaway slaves in the movie. This is a modern day slave adaptation, and they felt freedom for the first time, but it looks like love, and it seemed like a love story because they both experienced it through a traumatic event. Now, their uncle had a friend, a white guy who was married, and they go to see him, and when the police come to the house, he tells them to go hide up under the bed. They go hide up under the bed, but they know to pull the floorboards up. How would they know this? They would know this because back in the day when these abolitionists or these Quakers would help black people, people already knew what to do because there was information passed from free black people to slaves or the abolitionists to slaves or the Quakers to slaves. So all this stuff was known on how to move, where to go, who to talk to. All these things were known when it came to runaway slaves. So as you see in the film, they're not only getting help from black people, but they're also getting help from white people. And keep in mind, they're moving off of the grid like a runaway slave would. They are literally on a modern day underground railroad. There are points in the film where the film does take a turn for the worse. And as I said before Hollywood can greenlight a movie, there has to be certain elements that keeps the same narrative alive about black people. So most of the black films that we see aren't actually black films. I would venture to say that none of the black films we actually see on the big screen are actually black films because they have to get approved by white Hollywood. And this has been going on for years. So when Hollywood greenlights a movie, they want to put certain things in to remind us and the general public of our state in society. So in this particular case, their car breaks down. Now this part of the film is where they got lazy because Slim actually mentions that the auto shop they saw is basically miles back. And they want us to believe that Slim pushed the car with Queen in the driver's seat. This is symbolic because this is Slim submitting to the Queen, which is Queen. And he's pushing the car backwards, which also symbolizes that this is not progression. This is actually regression in their journey. This is the first time in the film where they actually go backwards. They get to the shop and the shop owner does not agree with them. He knows who they are. He does not agree with them, but he does agree to fix their car and he takes all of their money. Again, the black male characters in this movie, the pivotal black male characters, are not shown in a favorable light. Now, the young man, the auto mechanic's son, the young man is basically instructed by his father to go with them as collateral so they won't believe that he'll just steal their money or possibly turn them in. So the son goes with them and he's just in awe of them. He's enamored by them. He actually says he wants to be immortal. He wants to be just like them. He wants to be known for something great. All these great things to say, but keep in mind, these aren't actually heroes. So his admiration of them is actually false. It's not real because they're not heroes. They're just really on the run and they're scared. So he actually goes to a rally being held for them. Ironically, their rally is being held for him, and he goes to the rally, and he goes up to the front line, and he's upset with this white officer. He looks him in the eyes, and you think he's going to do something, but he doesn't. This is symbolic in the movie because at the end of the day, this is how they see black people, that black people aren't really going to do anything because we are afraid of a consequence when it comes to white people. So he doesn't do anything to the white officer. What he does is, and keep in mind, there are a lot of white officers on the scene. There are mostly white officers. But what he does is he actually goes to the black officer and he turns up. And he turns up because the black officer is not a threat to him. The black officer is trying to talk to him, is trying to be reasonable with him. Actually, the black officer just wants him to leave and go. You know what he does? He pulls a gun out and he shoots the black officer in the face. But he doesn't shoot the black officer in the face when the black officer is armed. He shoots the black officer in the face when the black officer let his guard down. This is symbolic. This means that the young man did it the cowardly way. Again, this is symbolic, showing you that in actuality, they view us as cowards. Now, the young man shot him in the face, and he looked surprised, as if he didn't know he was going to shoot him, but he meant to shoot him because he was angry. And he was so angry and frustrated that usually history has shown that when we get upset and angry, we attack who? We attack each other. Does art imitate life? But I thought the young man shooting the officer was unrealistic. It's just something they threw in the movie to basically make any kind of movement they had seem futile and ridiculous, because the people, black people, aren't focused enough to understand what a movement is or a revolution is. Here is this black kid shooting a black officer in the face when these two people, Queen and Slim, are running or killed a white officer that had already killed an unarmed black man before. And this is why Queen got out of the car to videotape the officer, because she knew who he was. And she makes mention of it in the car. But when Slim asked her, does he know who, did she know who he was? She says she didn't, but she lied. She knew who he was. And she did not get out the car to protect Slim. She got out of the car to catch the officer on camera. And I want to add a quick side note. Most of these quote-unquote black films really just appeal to our senses, meaning they appeal to what we think visually looks good, but most of these films that we have that are actually black films don't actually stimulate our mind, our conscious or our subconscious. Like, most of the messages in these black films is very overt and very easy to digest. And that's usually how they cater to the black community, is by all the lights, the glamour, the flash, because they know we'll be impressed with all the stuff that's on the surface. That's why I said Queen and Slim is stunning, because it appeals to the visualization of what we like. We like the bright colors. We like the skin tones. We like the clothes. We like the cars. We like all these things. And that's basically what it appeals to. And if you don't pay attention, you'll get distracted by all those things and you won't see the deeper messages in the film. I imagine on set, they were taking pictures every day like it was a photo shoot. Because like I said, the movie looked good. It was well directed, visually stunning. You see, oftentimes they don't think we know any better. They don't think we can digest anything that's below the surface. And this is how they cater to us when it comes to films. Remember in The Gladiator, when he asked him, "Are you entertained?" That's the same thing with us. They want to entertain us. They don't want to wake us up. They want us to be entertained. And what they've done is they've dumbed down our culture so much to where we're entertained by all the superficial stuff, not realizing that blackness or being black is as deep as the cosmos. It's as deep as the abyss in the ocean. You know, like traveling to the center of the earth and seeing a whole different world in there. You couldn't describe being black in one word. You couldn't describe it in a movie. You couldn't write it in a script. You couldn't put it in a book. You literally have to see it, live it, exist with it, be it, learn it, live it, love it. What does it mean to be black? They will tell you it means to struggle. I will tell you it means to be divine. It means to be greatness in the flesh. It means to know that without this skin, I'm still the best thing that God created. And the white wife actually makes mention to what they're doing is going to lead to bad things, because the young man shot a black police officer. She's letting them know that all this hope for black people has still turned out to be bad for black people. And the wife really doesn't want them there. She's not with them at all. But the husband is, because the husband is honorable. Again, this is the white savior narrative. The white man in the film, the pivotal white man in the film that actually helps them, is a good man. And he doesn't tell on them. With the police surrounding his house and interrogating him and his wife, neither one of them tell on Queen and Slim. So there still is a white savior narrative in the film. But a black officer experiencing racism on the force helps them escape from the police and get away from the white couple's home. And the white guy gives them instructions. He says, if you lose this address, he gave him an address on a piece of paper. He says, if you lose this address, you're basically screwed. The film takes another bad turn because they travel and they pull over to the side of the road to rest, but it doesn't make mention whether this is the address or not. He gets out of the car and he says they aren't here, but we don't know whether that's the place or not because he's literally on the side of the road. So there's no indication that he's actually in the right place or even at the right address or even in the vicinity of the people he's supposed to meet. So long story short, a black man, typical, stereotypical black guy, same kind of car, tattoos, gold teeth, braids in his hair or locks in his head, typical, stereotypical black person, basically pulled up to the car with a shotgun and then basically says that he's going to help him, and it's turned out to be a setup because he's working with the police. And when he sees them, he probably calls the police and lets them know, I got him, we're going to set it up, and he wants the reward, and he ends up getting $500,000 because they got $250,000 for the both of them. They were both, the bounty on both of them was $250 apiece. And the white couple makes mention to that their bounty is $250,000, which lets you know this is a movie about runaway slaves because the white couple is telling them how much the bounty is and also telling them how much trouble and danger they are in. This was a modern day adaptation, like I said before, of a runaway slave movie, and it just seemed like they found love on the run, but they actually didn't find love. They just found freedom, if only for a moment. But the stereotypical black guy that claims to be the one that help them actually sets them up, like I said, and they go to the plane, and now they're surrounded by police officers, and they have a whole bunch of guns pointed at them, and the police officer tell them to get on the ground, get the hands up, the same kind of instructions, and she tells him, I never let your hand go, and then she says, I'll be your legacy. And right after she says that, she gets shot unjustly. She gets an unlawful shooting. She is shot unlawfully right in the chest. This time, though, she gets shot center mass because she mentions being his legacy. Think about this. Now she gets killed because now her regret has turned into purpose. And he's holding her hand because now she's seeing Slim for who he is supposed to be, who he is becoming. And that is the man that isn't afraid, that has courage, that knows who he should be. All these things come to light at that very moment in the film. They actually realize what this whole thing is about. They get kind of an epiphany, and that's when she dies. And then when he realizes his legacy is lost, then he knows it's over, and he basically walks forward with his legacy in hand, and they just spray him with bullets. And the story reads, the police had to shoot him because they were armed and dangerous, yada, yada, yada. But that last scene is pivotal because their way of escape was thwarted by the police, but they were sold out by a black person. And once they realized who they really were, they were killed. This is symbolic of us not having any hope. This is symbolic of us living in a desperate situation in America. This is symbolic of two people who really just wanted to live, who really just wanted to live their life, actually having to kill someone to defend themselves because they were probably going to get killed, and they were on the run, and they were actually innocent. This lets you know that black people suffering in America is mostly because of white oppression due to the potential of our legacy. This is why that paper that the white guy gives them is symbolic, because it's like freedom papers. He said, if you lose this, you are screwed. Those were the papers to freedom. In the movie, it was an address to where he needed to meet the guy to get on the plane. So that was symbolic of freedom papers. If you lose this paper, which has the address on it, you are screwed. And as you see, in the end, they just died, and all they got was a mural on the side of a liquor store in the hood. That's it. Does art imitate life, or does it influence it? Like I said, I enjoyed the film, but there were some messages in the film that I didn't agree with. But in the end of the film, it pretty much summed up our existence in America. No matter how much we run, no matter how much we fight, no matter how much we protest, no matter how much we rally, the end result is we are dead, and so is our legacy. And one more thing, they didn't die free. They died as slaves. They didn't die free. They actually still died on the run as slaves. This is why in the end of the film, they don't get freedom, because they're still in bondage. They're close to freedom, but they don't actually get actual freedom. They are killed before they get to freedom. We have black people selling each other out for money. For every black person that's helping another black person, we have another black person that's selling them out to the system. It's just a tragic existence. And the movie in the end really showed you what it was all about. It was almost as if freedom was right there, and right before they could really get the true freedom, they were killed. And the man died, the black man died with his legacy in hand. I find it ironic that the black films that are out now are actually played by black people from Great Britain or London. It's just ironic that most of these films we see, the characters are not played by black American actors. But this is by design, because we have claim to what America is. America is our country. This is our promised land, and we have claim to it. So what they want to do is totally erase us from everything. We are facing economic extinction in about 30 years, but this is all by design. This is all by design. This is not happenstance. This is all strategic. They want to erase our existence. It's almost as if they want to erase us even from playing ourselves. This is how they water down the message and the narrative, because they want to erase us from the story. If you erase us from the story, then it literally becomes their story and not our story. We used to have his story. We never had her story. And now all we have is their story. So they want to erase us from telling our story. They want to erase us from the claims that we have in America. This is our land, and they want to erase all the claims. And that means entertainment, sports, media, business, social services, any area where we can seem prominent and actually make some change. They do not want to give us any power or leverage. It's actually unsettling to me to see the trend of black lead actors and actresses being played by black people from Great Britain, which are really Africans. And it's unsettling because I know where the trend is going. The trend will basically erase black Americans from the film industry, from playing lead roles. And once the roles disappear, then so will directing opportunities, so will producing opportunities, so will script opportunities. Again, they want to erase our story. That's why in the end of the film, you see their story was erased, and they were literally remembered by a mural on the side of a liquor store. Does art imitate life, or does it influence it? But I know you all think I'm getting too deep, and you all would think that movies are just movies and it's just entertainment, but all movies have a message because the director has a point they are trying to get across. All movies have a purpose. They're informative, but they're also entertainment at the same time. And then if we get deep into the films, we'll see the spiritual level in all the films as well. But that will be saved for another time. I enjoyed the movie. Like I said, I gave Queen and Slim a B/B minus. I recommend you all go see the film. It was visually stunning. It was directed very well, and it was entertaining. Wait for it. Free blast. Get money. Go.